Hello and welcome to another episode of the Coder Career Podcast with myself, Cameron Blackwood. On this show, I like to interview cool people in the technology scene and let them tell their story about how they got to where they are today and what they'd teach their junior self. Today's guest is Joshua Moe. Joshua works in dev relations for ShuttleRS and is a massive Rust enthusiast. If you're a fan of the Primeagen, you may have seen him recently review one of Joshua's blog posts, which has got quite a lot of attention. Rust is a massive trend in the web dev and general software ecosystem at the moment, so this will be a really interesting episode where I learned a lot as well. And a quick word to our sponsor, which this week is actually myself. For those who aren't familiar, I have actually launched a new platform called Startup Grad Jobs. This is a place where you can be connected with the coolest entry-level roles in startups and scale-ups, currently in the UK. There are, of course, plenty of tech roles available on there, but if you do have friends or for some reason you love listening to coding podcasts when you're not a software engineer, there are non-technical roles on there as well. So do share them and do sign up for the mail list if you're interested. It's totally free for candidates. And if you're an employer, at the moment, it's currently free to post any job you want. And one last bit of housekeeping, I will be hosting the next Coder Career meetup in Glasgow on Wednesday, the 14th of June. It's at BJSS's offices and you can get your tickets for free in the link in the description. It was a great event last time, so I'm looking forward to doing one again. Big thanks to both BEIT and BJSS for organising. But without further ado, here's my conversation with Joshua Moe. Hey Joshua, thanks so much for joining me. How you doing?
Yeah, hey, I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks, not bad. Drove 8 hours from Somerset to Edinburgh yet, but I made it.
Oh,
So I'm feeling fresh this morning. So I'm all good. So for people who haven't heard of you before, or perhaps aren't particularly active on a Discord, although I think you're on a Discord under a pseudonym actually, so people may not actually make the connection.
yeah, I
Um,
am. It's a Discord account that I originally used for gaming, but I just started hopping in developer Discords and stuff, and just started using my real name where appropriate.
yeah, my GitHub is still my gamer tag, so it's
Yeah,
always there.
yeah, yeah. My GitHub is my real name, and when I'm on Shuttle, the company that I work for now, I use my real name. But other than that, yeah.
So what's your story? Who are you and what do you do? Well, you just said you work for Shuttle, but other than that,
At the moment, I currently do admin for a private healthcare company
Mhm.
in Lichfield, filling out forms, onboarding people, and doing stuff like that. I'm also a coach for a charity called Code Bar that does like workshops and stuff for minorities and things like that. But anyway, before the admin job, I was also doing admin and sales for a Chinese wholesale food company.
Nice. And so you're working at Shuttle now. Is that a full-time thing, or are you still balancing that with your other
No,
commitments?
it's actually a part-time contract. My day job, as it were, isn't actually in tech at the moment.
Okay, so you got
Um,
kind of a foot in both areas.
yeah, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So at Shuttle at the moment, you're doing developer relations. A lot of people won't actually know what that really entails and what that means. Do
Yeah,
you want to explain a little bit about what dev relations is, what it's like, what
yeah,
maybe
sure.
someone does day to day?
So professionally speaking, DevRel is like marketing but for developers. Um, so for example, you might be trying to promo like a new product, or you're trying to educate people on how best to use your product, or you're trying to push like an event or organize an event. It is a very generalist role in terms of your responsibilities, so you might be expected to promote a product or write some documentation explaining how to better use the product. For example, if you are a cloud hosting company, you might want to make a some documentation regarding how best to use your product. For example, Vercel might make a guide on how to make a app using Next.js, which is a JavaScript framework that they often promote with their stuff. So yeah, it's it's a whole lot of things. It's not just one thing that you tied down to, but that also kind of makes it a little bit difficult because you kind of have to define your own boundaries within the role,
Hmm.
and you kind of have to enforce that on yourself just to make sure you know what you're doing, because it can be a bit easy to get lost in all the action that's happening.
Yeah, because from what I've seen, like no two DevRel jobs are the same at all.
No,
Like
no, absolutely not.
sometimes you don't even do any coding as part of the role, and then other times you're, it's more of a support thing, and then other times it's more of almost a sales kind of thing. So it's a very loose job term in that respect. So it's an interesting job, and I've always heard it described as it's almost like a like a missionary in terms of like you're like like a religious person who goes converting people into using your tech stack.
You're basically kind of trying to convert people into followers of whatever you're trying to promote.
Yeah. And before you broke into DevRel, something that I think actually sparked my interest in inviting you on the show was you were advising one of the other members of the Discord server, codecareer.com/Discord, people who want to join. You were advising them about how they might go about self-teaching and getting into the industry without having, a qualification from in comp sci from a university or similar. What would you say your secret was to getting into this industry without any kind of formal accreditation?
um I'm gonna be honest with you, it was a lot of work. About 10 or so years ago, when I was in college, I was doing a computing A level, but that doesn't really it didn't really have any effect on later on, which was like a year ago when I actually started coding properly. Um, it really was just a whole lot of hard work. Initially, when I started, I was putting in about 5 to 6 hours per day after work, just
Oof.
grinding it out, and sometimes getting in a little bit between work sessions. So, um, but it that part is not really the main part. The main part is just being consistent and sticking to just learning, like, to be committed. There were quite a few times where I just wanted to give up and just not think about it anymore, because um it's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, but it's just so worth it, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is worth it, but you have to push through like a whole lot of rubbish first before you get
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I would perhaps substitute the word rubbish for something else, but we'll keep it clean for the podcast because yeah, it is tough to break in.
Yeah, it is a whole lot of work, a whole lot of struggle. You'll want to quit many times before you
Yeah.
get anywhere. So
But it's like a mountain, isn't it? When you climb to the top and you look all the way down, you get that feeling of satisfaction and knowing it was all worth it.
yeah, I think to get to the entry level, you have to climb a mountain, and then to get from the entry level to anywhere else, you also have to climb a mountain. So it's not
Yeah.
just
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there who will try and sell a dream of how easy it is to break in and then subsequently
yeah,
improve and climb the ranks once you are in. And the reality of it is that it's tough. I mean, I think I took a slightly different approach when I was learning to code, in the sense it sounds like I did it over a longer time period, but like with less time per day. So I was maybe doing it, an hour per day, but it's still, it took me like a good sort of 18 months to get to the point where I was ready. And whereas for you, it took you less time. I mean, as part of that process, it sounds like you were really going for it. Like, is there anything that you would have taken differently in terms of that approach, or
yeah.
would you do it all again the same way?
I wouldn't have been so intense about it,
Hmm.
because no matter what you do, it's the job grind is going to be more difficult than any learning that you've done before then, because you can learn React and full stack and Mongo and whatever, but it's really discouraging sometimes when you just don't hear back from companies, or they tell you to run a hiring freeze, or they've hired someone else. So yeah, it's not easy at all.
Yeah, you have to develop a real sort of thick skin and a degree of resilience to get through that first job search. In particular, it can be absolutely brutal. I mean, in terms of what you learn, actually, like we threw out a couple of technologies there. Like, what was the stack you went for originally? Like in terms of learning, has that changed at all, and why did you pick it?
Right. So initially, when I was first learning, I was actually doing Python.
Hmm.
So I was making a web scraper for work, and then I moved on to making a HTTP REST
Yeah.
API, using Fast API, and then I used Postgres.
Hmm.
Um, from then, I learned like general web development stuff, and then I started using my first kind of like proper tech stack, which was of like React, CSS, and like the average junior tech stack who's trying to break into tech, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Hey,
And
it's
then
served me well since I've broken in as well. It's all I've ever had to use, the basic bro
yeah,
tech stack.
yeah. So then after that, I did Next.js with Postgres because I tried to learn to use Mongo but failed miserably, and I really hated it. I found also that the relational nature of Postgres and SQL itself really helped with smaller projects because you don't need as much data as
Mhm.
you maybe would for Mongo, because part of the appeal when you're using Mongo, of course, is the fact that you can just store like unrelated data and it'll be denormalized. But with SQL, you need that kind of normalization of data, because otherwise you'll just get loads of wasted space, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, after that, I learned some PHP, because I heard that PHP was great.
Interesting. Where'd you hear that?
It was actually one of my friends at Code Bio. He was like, "Why don't you learn PHP?
Are you
JavaScript is
still friends?
terrible."
Like,
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah. He's best mate and all that. After that, I learned PHP Laravel, which is like also a full stack kind of like framework that did their things the PHP way, and it was quite easy to use, but I couldn't really find anywhere to host it. So I had to kind of like stop using that, and then I came across Rust, which I really wanted to learn. I thought it was really cool. The name was really cool, I thought anyway.
yeah.
And then yeah, that's pretty much how I got to hear
Mm.
from where I was then. So
What I quite like about a lot of what you said is you focused on problem first and then finding the relevant solution to that problem and finding the right
right,
tool,
yeah,
like what you're talking about with the tool you were using for the job in your in the job where you were using Python for I guess some kind of automation.
right,
I would
yeah,
assume. Did you end up
yeah.
using that project in
Yeah,
the
I
end?
did. I did actually. It was literally just to get marketing data, because
Hmm.
my boss wanted me to gather marketing leads manually from Yellow Pages, and of course, I don't want to do that because,
Yeah.
uh, it- yeah, it was. I wait. Well, I used a lot of time to make a script so I could save time, but I never got to use that script again because I got blocked from Yellow Pages.
Oh,
So
really? Did you get hit a rate limiter then, or?
Yeah, yeah. Whenever I tried to use the bot after like the first 3 times, they got me. So,
That's funny. So, yeah, so that's interesting. I didn't even realize Yellow Pages was still going. I
sorry,
thought it
not
was
Yellow
dead after they stopped.
Pages. Yell, I think.
Okay. So just some kind of like directory.
Yeah, it was
And
just
then were
one of
you
them.
hitting that for local businesses or?
Yeah, basically. Because that company was serving like Chinese takeaways and restaurants in the West Midlands area.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's really cool. And do you know what the other aspect I like of that as well is everyone always talks about how making a portfolio and like where to find ideas for your portfolio. Like that is automatically something that has a super relevant use case for like a business that actually needed to use it. And you didn't even have to think about the problem because it's literally a problem your employer was facing. And something I think a lot of people are afraid of when you don't necessarily need to be afraid of it is that to reveal your programming skills to your day job if you're not already a programmer, because chances are you can use it as a asset, particularly if you're learning something like Python. I read the book Automate the Boring Stuff with Python when I was learning to code, and the amount of stuff you can take into a regular job and build scripts for it, it's a win-win because the company can just think, oh, they're just adding a string to their bow, when actually you're sneakily looking to go away and become a developer.
Yeah, I think one of the main things at the moment in my day job is that any new software requires IT approval, and
Mhm.
because I've been handed a company laptop, I don't really want to break IT policies.
Yeah, yeah. We've all had our run-ins with IT before. See, that's why I
Yeah,
always worked for startups for as a developer because they just let me install any old thing on the machine.
yeah, pretty much,
But yeah,
yeah.
there's certain stuff that comes bundled with your machine though, so you should keep an eye out, see what you could do with it. So, how much coding are you doing at the moment at Shuttle, your open source role?
Uh, Pretty much daily, man. Not gonna lie to you, I literally just dropped an article about creating a Next.js plus Rust app using the Node CLI program that Shuttle made. Um, as you've probably seen already, it got featured on Hashnode, which is
Yeah, really
crazy.
cool.
Like, I I didn't even know they were paying attention and all that, but um, at the moment I'm working on metrics and stuff, and that also requires coding. So you know, there's a lot of there is a lot of stuff going on because Shuttle's like a small startup. They've got a small team at the moment, relatively speaking. So they do kind of just need um all hands pretty much.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
if you yeah,
it's a good learning experience joining a
yeah,
small startup, isn't it? Because if you do want to just get stuck into something, they'll be glad to let you rather than go
yeah,
through a load of red tape.
yeah, you don't have to go for all the paperwork and all that.
Yeah, exactly. And what actually is Shuttle and what's the solution? Because I started playing around with it after reading
Right,
your article the other day, actually, and it
yeah.
is really cool.
So Shuttle is they describe themselves as a Rust native development cloud platform. Now, what that means is, in layman's terms, is that it makes deploying Rust web services really easy. Now, the current state of Rust for web services is that it's a really great programming language to be able to run your stuff on. Anecdotally speaking, there's been a lot of stories where people have needed, say, they could only put one or two of their web services on a container,
Hmm.
but with Rust, they can fit quite a few more on, as well as it being more stable, more performant, and generally better performing. Um, but basically, how it works is that Shuttle will let you put in annotations in your code. So, for example, instead of having complicated config files and having to go through a GUI or whatever to sort your environment variables out, you can just do it through code, through simply installing the crates. Well, crates in Rust are like npm packages for anyone
Hmm.
who isn't aware. So you can just install the crates, put the macros into the main function, and then you can just deploy.
So it's just removing all this friction that was
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
so people
pretty
can add
much.
into what is like the hottest trend in programming right now, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. So the main role for the main vision for Rust is to make deploying as easy as possible.
Mhm.
So we're working on a GUI at the moment that will just try and completely like blow the experience out of the water for devs, so that it's just as frictionless as possible.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And you mentioned about Rust, how you saw it for the first time and you're like, this is really cool. I even like the name.
Yeah,
Like, there is a certain allure to it. I know exactly what you mean.
I
And in the
know.
last
Yeah,
5 years, I think it's been rated as the most loved programming language. First off,
yeah.
why do you think that is? And secondly, if there's someone who is thinking about learning Rust, why should they learn it?
Right. Okay. So I think Rust, at its core, because of the way it's been designed, solves a lot of problems that you might face when you're, for example, let's say you code in JavaScript, right?
Mhm.
Error handling in JavaScript, like,
It's all Greek to me, error handling.
yeah,
It's
I
crazy.
don't I don't need to say anything else. You all you have to do is just wrap everything in try catch blocks and hope it works, right? And then
Yeah.
if it doesn't work, you got hell on your hands. Now Rust won't allow that because first of all it has typing, which a lot of languages have. Um, but generally speaking, type safety is really important, of course.
Mhm.
Um, just for general type enforcement, making sure things aren't the wrong type. Um, because as anyone who has used language without type safety knows, if you try to coerce something into the wrong type, it'll just give you an error without letting you know why. Um, Also, Rust's error handling is really great because it's exhaustive. You can use different kinds of pattern matching expressions. So, for example, you can say, um, so in JavaScript, you might say if an API call is okay, then do the next thing. But in Rust, you could also say let the result of something be okay, otherwise, like print some error or whatever. Um, which is really nice because there are some cases where you might have just a load of if statements in JavaScript. Like you might have like a load of early return statements basically. But in Rust you wouldn't need to do that.
Mm.
And generally, as well, you can have like blanket implementations. So for example, you might have a a unit struct, right? So a struct with no fields. But then you can put an implementation on that struct to have like related functions be together. So that's also really nice in terms of semantics because um, obviously if you have like, for example, a function named add one and then another function named add two, you can just have them together in a function called add numbers or something, which
Yeah.
is very nice because if you import it into another file, you'll know exactly what you're getting instead of trying to figure out, oh, what file am I getting this from?
And is there any particular like kind of how will people know if Rust is for them? Like, is there any particular type of developer it tends to lend itself to? As in, maybe someone that prefers the back end work normally tries to minimize the front end, or someone that's more front end heavy. How does it normally work?
I think Rust is more for backend developers because it's a
Mhm.
language that requires certainty. So it if you are someone who needs things to be absolutely certain and you don't really like taking chances, then Rust is really for you, pretty much. But even without that, there's a lot of things that benefit from what Rust has to offer. So even if you're a front end developer, you front Rust does have front end development frameworks that you can use. I wouldn't say they're quite at the level that, say, React and Next.js are, or Vue,
Hmm.
because of the smaller ecosystem, right? But um, if you wanted to, you could, pretty much.
Yeah, yeah. And something I've heard a bit about with Rust is WebAssembly and about how that could be coming
Yeah.
for the future of front end. What's your opinion on that? Have you come across it much?
Uh, I have some mixed opinions on that. To be fair,
Oh yeah.
my first initial thoughts are that I think everyone thinks WebAssembly isn't ready um, for production yet. Um, the fact is, it is being used in production at like companies like Mozilla,
Hmm.
who develop Firefox, and a couple others as well. I think in terms of usage, though, it's until there's a major change in how it's perceived. It's I don't think it's going to be used too much. Mainly because a lot of people use JavaScript and have no reason to switch to WebAssembly, which I
Mm.
can, because if there isn't a problem big enough to destabilize the amount of JavaScript developers, then unless WebAssembly provides a huge advantage, then people aren't really gonna see a need to move to it. This was actually, I felt that was actually quite evident when I posted my thread in the JavaScript subreddit, advertising my article. I actually got a lot of interesting opinions about, you know, um, Rust is kind of overkill for web development. People think WebAssembly isn't ready, but a lot of it is to do it's how it's perceived rather than factual statistical differences. Because if
Yeah.
you look on benchmarks, it's like around the same. For
Hmm.
example, Deoxys, which is built on Sledgehammer, which is like the second or third fastest framework out of like literally everything, even compared to vanilla, um, is built in JS. So it's not there isn't so much of a difference.
Hmm. Yeah, but I guess what you're saying about how it doesn't have that kind of real thing that pushes it over the top that's gonna make so many people change their minds. I guess it's the thing, like I get a lot of people saying to me about, so I'm mainly a front end developer and I use React quite heavily. And I
Right.
get a lot of people saying to me like, oh, but have you seen this framework and it does XYZ? And it's like, okay, yes, it's like a 5% improvement. It's like everyone literally basically in the front end ecosystem uses React. It's gonna take something monumental to unseat that, because there is just, once you have a framework with such dominance, all the support and the tooling is going to go towards that. And for a 5% improvement, is it worth sacrificing? I would say no.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What are your thoughts on solid solid start? I think it was that new meta framework that's come out.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny. I was playing around with it in the context of Astro, so it was like new framework inception. So I'm running Astro, and I wanted to do, it was 10% time at work, and so I just figured Astro is great because you can try all these different frameworks within it. And so I had a to do list that ran 6 different frameworks on one page, and it was good. It felt very Reacty, which is kind of exactly what I imagine they were going for. And if they're trying to convert React developers over to Solid, so I personally quite liked it. Have you used it?
No, I haven't actually. To be honest, I feel like front end JavaScript in general has just become kind of a bit of a minefield at the moment because of React getting like server components and Next.js considering making like SPA examples with front end only. It's all a bit crazy out there.
Yeah, it changes very rapidly. That's the biggest thing I warn people about front end is just how rapidly things will change versus back end, and how if you're a front end developer, you probably need to be a bit more in tune with what's going on, because there is more of a chance of things changing rapidly. With back end, if there's a major change, I feel like there's more of a warning. Front end, it seems to happen just so suddenly. Um, like yeah, and we are now entering a new. I think we are now entering one of those time periods where stuff has chopped up and changed a lot. Um, because we've gone from relative stability for a few years with React just being the top dog, and then obviously they brought in hooks in 2017, 2018, and that's now over 5 years of stability. But now with Next.js essentially now becoming the standard, because React no longer recommend themselves no
Yeah,
longer
no,
recommend Create React.
they recommend Next and whatnot.
Yeah.
So
They still don't recommend Vite though, which I couldn't believe. But
yeah, I think it looks like they are trying to move away from the SPA model.
yeah, I think
Um,
you're right.
they're kind of starting to edge more towards on the like MVC model, but
Yeah,
like without the server and the model,
yeah.
which is a bit weird. But you know, I guess I guess it is what it is.
It seems like Next.js is almost becoming the on rails to React's Ruby, and now everyone's just going to use Next.js. Because I don't know, Remix got bought by Shopify, seems to have dropped off the face of the earth, from what I can tell. It's all a bit strange.
I do find it a bit weird that like we're just instantly like recommending front end developers to use React so early,
Hmm.
because it's kind of like, well, you know basic JavaScript now, so now you can start using a framework that abstracts like 95% of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's a fair point. And something I've always advised people that are learning to code is like, the longer you spend on vanilla JavaScript as a front end developer, the quicker you will get a job. Even though chances are that job will be using something like React, you need to have the fundamentals nailed, to be able to learn effectively the React. Like, it's one of my biggest. I have a lot of regrets about how I learned to code and what I'd do differently. But one thing I don't regret is just how long I spent on vanilla JavaScript. And don't get me wrong, I was eager to move on to React, but I was really scared by JSX and couldn't work it out. So that's the only reason why I didn't move on.
JSX was definitely a bit crazy for me, just trying to get through it. Initially when I was learning it through Free Code Camp, and they had me on class components and all that. So
Oh,
when I
really?
went into so at the time they were teaching class components,
Hmm.
which was like last year August or so. But when I actually got into using functional components, it was really confusing because I had like no idea what I was doing. So yeah, I don't know.
It changes everything. And then I think the problem is with something like React, is you can so easily just start copying off tutorials and have something working. And there are so many things, like a lot of the hooks, like stuff like use effect and use state. Even though I hadn't rushed vanilla JavaScript, I didn't understand those concepts properly, and I kind of just muddled through them basically until I was a mid-level developer. I didn't really properly understand what use effect did.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I always advise people who are learning from any of the tutorials that I write to really, hone in and make sure they understand everything that is going on. And that's the main reason why, like, whenever I write an article or anything that like is basically essentially a tutorial, I'll make sure to put in full explanations as to what things are doing.
Yeah.
Because a month ago or so, I was writing a tutorial for a basic implementation of WebSockets in Rust.
Hmm.
Um, Now that was kind of like I wasn't using any libraries or anything, so I just had to kind of just work with the base implementation, which is if you're coming from JavaScript, you probably wouldn't understand it at all. So I kind of had to like make sure to explain all the typing and everything, and explain exactly how it kind of worked. Um, because normally in tutorials it's kind of like, oh, just do this, do that, and then you got the finished product, right? But it doesn't really help you when you're learning.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think a nice benchmark, because everyone learns a different way. But if you find yourself, say, if it's a video tutorial or it's a written tutorial with a time estimation, if you're spending, particularly for the written tutorial, if you're spending sort of three times the length of the time it takes to read or the time it takes to watch on the tutorial, you're probably going the right way about it because you're probably making notes, you're probably coding along, but you're coding along while changing certain aspects of it. So for me, the way I like to use tutorial is I'm actually going through one at the moment. It's a 4 hour long tutorial, and it's taking me most of a day to get through a 1 hour portion of it, just because I'm making notes on everything, and then I'm also as well writing out the code, but I'm changing things so that I know it's not a one for one copy, because I have to think about what's going on in each component of the code. Um, and that way I'm not going to be falling into trap of just copying stuff out. Like, everyone who's been to school knows that the worst way to revise for your exams is to just copy out the textbook. It's the absolute worst way because you're not actually learning anything. How would you say you go about using tutorials? Well, I guess maybe that's changed since you started writing them as well.
Well, initially in the beginning, I used to just copy everything and
Hmm.
um, not really write anything down. But as time went on, I started making sure that I wrote down like comment notes, explaining exactly what certain parts of the code did. So, for example, if there was something that called an API, I made sure to write down, this
Hmm.
function calls an API, or this returns something that's required for this, or things like that, basically.
Yeah,
Um, because having that kind of information really helps. Because when you go back to your code, you're not really sure what you're doing if you don't know what the components are doing. So
yeah,
that's kind of one thing that I definitely made sure to do. And then the other thing that I did was kind of just going back to the docs just to kind of reinforce my learning. Because
yeah. People don't manual, do
yeah,
they?
no, yeah, because sometimes people will just tell you to do things and not actually explain what they do, which is
Yeah,
something that I've always found really annoying. Like, um, there's one creator that watched you just said, "Oh, just use effect and it'll render." Then I was like, how does that work? Like,
yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. What's that?
Do you know what it is? I always wonder if it's because people panic a little bit because they're not 100% certain of exactly what's going on under the hood, particularly with React, because, like you said, it abstracts a lot of stuff. And I didn't know what use effect really did for ages. And then there's all these other hooks that going on, and it's difficult. Tutorials, there's no substitute really for the best way to learn, and I predict you'll agree with me on this, that the best way to learn is to solve a problem, and find a problem first and then work out a solution tailored to that problem, because that's also how you're going to code on the job.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you just have to kind of just find something you want to do and then just go out and do it.
Yeah,
There's really no substitute. Like, no matter what, no matter what kind of tutorial you can give to a new developer, the only way they're gonna learn is just by doing it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's words to live by, and perhaps actually the best words to leave it on, because we're rapidly approaching the sort of end of the pod.
Yeah.
In terms of that, what other advice would you give to developers?
Um, be consistent. Try not to give up if you can. And also it's okay to have a break because, to be honest, I have seen quite a few people on Twitter say getting a job in tech is easy. It's really not. It's
Yep,
really hard.
we're all about
Even
realism on this show. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Even for someone like me who got drawn, I initially actually got drawn in by one of these people saying it's really easy, but it's not.
Mm,
And you know, keeping your mind healthy is really important because I can handle very intense sessions of coding, but I know that a lot of people can't, and that's okay because everyone learns differently. Everyone has limits, and it's important to make sure that you are in a healthy state of mind while learning.
Yeah, preventing burnout is so important, and just understanding how you work is so critical because literally no one else, no two people are the same, and that's why I'm glad we're moving away from that structured presenteeism 9 to 5 kind of model that we've had for all these years, and we're finally recognizing that different people's brains work in different ways, right? And that's what makes the world a good thing. Yeah, cool. So again, thanks for coming on the show, Josh. And if people
Yeah,
want to
no,
find,
yeah, my
oh,
pleasure.
sorry, go
Yeah.
on.
Oh no, it's fine. I didn't want to say anything really, but yeah, no problem.
And if people want to find you and keep up to date with both your work in programming and what you're
Yeah.
doing at Shuttle, what's the best way for people to keep in touch?
So the best way to reach me is at my Twitter, joshmo_dev, or you can find me at my LinkedIn, Joshua Mo. I believe you're connected with me on LinkedIn.
I am, yeah, and I'll
Yeah,
follow you on Twitter after this, so I'll pop
yeah.
those links in the description.
I also have a GitHub, Joshua-Mo-143, but you don't really have to follow me on there if you don't want to. I post the most useless stuff on there, so if you see me make a new repo, just know it's either an example for Shuttle or just an
Or you're
experiment
just
that I'm
having
trying
fun.
out. Yeah.
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 Mate, mine is bizarre. Like the relics people have found actually going back in there because do you know what it is? You start a podcast about development and you really would think
Yeah.
that you should probably clear out the old repos from 5 years ago in your GitHub, but you don't think to do it, and then suddenly your listeners are finding exposed Firebase keys
Oh.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's
Yeah.
some interesting relics from my past. But yeah, that's really awesome. Then obviously as well, you're actually a very active contributor on our Discord, giving out lots of helpful advice. So if people want to chat with you as well, you'll I see you're often on our Discord, so
Yeah. Yeah.
people want to find
Definitely.
you on there as well.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on, Josh, and thanks as well to
No
the listeners for
problem.
checking out another episode of the Coder Career.